I believe that Sylvester Stallone did Apollo Creed, Carl Weathers dirty. He was underpaid for Rocky 1, 2, and 3. He was underpaid for Rocky 1, 2, and 3. And when Carl Weathers demanded appropriate compensation for Rocky 4, Sylvester Stallone expediently had him murdered in the movie by way of Ivan Drago, and he was removed from the Rocky enterprise. That's why we're losing in America, because every group knows Negroes are too selfish financially to use their money together to help themselves. The only time they do that is if they're peace and Pan-Africanism, peace and Pan-Africanism. Peace and Pan-Africanism, peace and Pan-Africanism. This is your big brother, Dr. Umar Ifatunde Oguntade, coming to you live and direct from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This is the Prince. This is King Kong Consciousness. This is Intercontinental Ifatunde, RB Jesus, Notorious RBG, coming to you live and direct from the city of Philadelphia. I have a special message for my students at the University of Minnesota. And to the Twin Cities community, I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming out to show me love 2 nights ago, Thursday for Black History Month. Y'all jam-packed the auditorium, Northrop Auditorium. There was a lot of love, lot of love. I can't thank the students of the University of Minnesota enough for showing up and showing out. Y'all showed me the kind of love that I get at the HBCUs. Y'all showed me the kind of love that I get at the HBCUs, and I didn't know I had that kind of love at the University of Minnesota. So I want to say thank you to all of the University of Minnesota students who came out to show love, and of course, to the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul community who came out to support me as well. I enjoyed the event thoroughly. With that being said, I am disappointed to have to tell the students of the University of Minnesota that your Black Student Union president has not yet remitted his full financial obligation to Dr. Umar Ifatunde for my appearance. He paid the deposit prior to my arrival. I reached out asking for the balance. He has not responded. Maybe he's busy. No problem. He might be busy. It's the weekend. Understandable. But for my students at the University of Minnesota, please get word to the Black Student Union president that Dr. Umar is awaiting payment of the final balance of his appearance. And if I do not get that, plus my airfare, as we contractually agreed to, I may have to do a little bit of expose on some of the unethical things that I think may have transpired building up to my visit at the University of Minnesota. And I'm really not here to expose any young undergraduate brothers. As a former BSU president at a PWI myself, I don't really want to get into that. But my dear brother, if you think you're not going to fulfill your contractual obligations to me financially for the price at which you charge the community to come to that event, if you think you're not going to fulfill your contracted obligation after the amount of money you charged the community to attend that event, I can assure you things will not go that way. If I need to have my attorney contact university administration, that's exactly what will happen. Let's not go there, my brother. Pay what you owe and let's move on. Otherwise, I'm going to do a full expose. And I don't think you want this Black Student Union membership. I don't think you want the African students of the University of Minnesota to know everything about how this process unfolded. So please, good brother, pay your debts. Let's move on, or I will have to expose you to my beautiful brothers and sisters at the University of Minnesota, and I don't want to do that. Now, with that, and to my students at the University of Minnesota, if you have any information on the backstory behind my visit, to my students at the University of Minnesota, if you have any information on the backstory, feel free to text me any information you have on the backstory, because I got a whole lot I can tell that I don't want to tell. I just want what's old and we move on. But if my brother thinks he's going to run a scam on the Prince of Pan-Africanism, I will have to do some exposing. You can reach me at 215-989-9858, 215, text message only, 989-9858, 215-989-9858. Now, I'm only going to be with you guys for 10 minutes. Make sure you hit the Cash App, $FDMG School. Make sure you hit the PayPal, paypal.me/FDMG Academy. Okay. Information for the Africa trip will be out on February the 14th. Information for the Africa trip will be out on February the 14th. As far as Carl Weathers, Apollo Creed, rest in peace. He just joined the ancestors a few days ago. Rest in peace to him. Condolences, support, and love to his family and friends. I was a big Carl Weathers fan. Predator is one of my favorite movies. Rocky, obviously. You know, he was in Action Jackson. Carl Weathers was definitely a pioneering black actor. Sylvester Stallone, I believe, did him dirty, allegedly. I believe that Sylvester Stallone did Apollo Creed, Carl Weathers, dirty. He was underpaid for Rocky 1, 2, and 3. He was underpaid for Rocky 1, 2, and 3. And when Carl Weathers demanded appropriate compensation for Rocky 4, Sylvester Stallone expediently had him murdered in the movie by way of Ivan Drago, and he was removed from the Rocky enterprise. I'm having a hard time understanding why Carl Weathers was killed off in the Rocky enterprise after he finally got paid a decent wage for his role in that film. So as far as I'm concerned, Sylvester Stallone did Carl Weathers dirty, and for him to do a little video talking about how much Carl Weathers meant to Rocky, to me, that was complete bullish, complete propaganda, complete let me try and save my backside from public disgrace. That's what I think. Allegedly, that's where I stand. Because Apollo Creed was more valuable to Rocky than Sylvester Stallone. He made Rocky 1. He made Rocky 2. He made Rocky 4. Rocky 3, maybe not so much because his role wasn't that major. But he definitely made them. And he was underpaid. If Sylvester Stallone really cares about Carl Weathers the way he claims, pay his family all the back money you owe him. If Sylvester Stallone really claims to care about Carl Weathers the way he claims, pay his family all the back money that you owe him. Now, brothers and sisters, when we talk about solving the problems of African people, when we talk about solving the problems of African people, we have to make sure we put our problems within the proper context of discussion. A lot of times we don't put our problems within the proper context of discussion. And what I mean by putting our problems within the proper context of discussion is there's a couple things you have to understand whenever you deal with black folks. There's a couple things you have to understand whenever you deal with black folks. And I'm talking to African people, Caucasian nation. I'm going to ask that you respectfully leave the live. This is an African family conversation. Caucasian nation, Snow Bunny Brigade, Neanderthal community. I'm going to ask you to please leave the live. I'm talking to Africans right now. This is not a space for Caucasian nation, Neanderthal nation, Snow Bunny Brigade. Please exit the live. Now, when you're trying to solve the problems of African people with African people, you have to put that process in its proper political context. What do I mean? When I say when you're trying to solve the problems of African people with African people, you have to put that process in the proper political, social, economic context. Number one, certain things you can almost assume when you bring in black people together. I'm talking to African people, Caucasian nation, please exit. Neanderthal nation, please exit. Number one, you have to assume that most of the people there are not willing to use their money in a consistent way to benefit the political, economic, and social gain of the black community. You can almost assume this. Black people, post Dr. King, we do not have a culture, a political culture. We do not have a political culture that requires us to use our money to benefit the collective. We will use our money to open restaurants. We will use our money to open black businesses. We will use our money to pay for our college child's tuition. We will use our money to buy a car and a house. But we do not like to use our money to advance our political and economic agenda. Black people don't do that. That's why we're losing in America, because every group knows Negroes are too selfish financially to use their money together to help themselves. The only time they do that is if they're doing it in the name of Jesus, Muhammad, fraternity, sorority, Masonic affiliation. They don't do it under the banner of being African. They don't do it under the banner of being black. They don't do it under the banner of being American African. Every community uses their money to benefit their politics. Every community uses their money to benefit their politics, except American Africans. And this is even true for many of our diasporan brothers and sisters. This is also true for our diasporan Africans. We as a race of people don't usually use our money to help people who look like us unless we're getting something back from it. That's why when you look at black billionaires and millionaires, that's why when you look at black billionaires and millionaires, that's why when you look at black billionaires and millionaires, they rarely give back to their community, because we don't have a culture of giving back to our own. They might give in the name of the NAACP, white founded and controlled institution. They may give in the name of the Urban League, white founded and controlled institution. They may give in the name of a grassroots organization, governmental controlled institution. They will give to United Way and Red Cross in the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. But when you ask them about giving back to black people, not people of color, not minorities, not impoverished Americans, not disadvantaged communities, but when you ask them about giving back to black people, they're nowhere to be found. They're nowhere to be found. One of the biggest differences between black millionaires and billionaires and the millionaires and billionaires of any other race, when you find a billionaire other than a black billionaire, they're personally responsible for creating at least 10 to 20 other millionaires. That's how other cultures operate. The Jews, the Anglo-Saxons, the Arabs, the East Indians, the Asians. That's how they operate, not in the black community. In the black community, we don't want other Africans to win. We have an HNIC problem that we have not addressed. The Negro community has an HNIC problem that we have not appropriately addressed. We have a plantation mentality. We still think like plantation slaves. Oh, yes, we do. We have a HNIC. On the plantation, only one Negro was appointed by the slave master to be the slave driver. He wasn't the overseer. He was the driver. He answered to the overseer. He's the driver. Al Sharpton is the driver. Benjamin Crump is the driver. Jesse Jackson is the driver. Congressional Black Caucus, they are the drivers. Their job is to drive Negroes, herd us together. The job of the driver, you have the owner, the master, and the driver. The driver's job was to keep Black people operating in the manner that the power structure needed them to do. Your job is to drive them to work. Your job is to drive them from their beds to the plantation in the morning. Your job is to drive them to the ballot box on election day. Your job is to make Negroes do what the power structure wants them to do. Until Black people use Black dollars to build Black power, we will be exterminated. You have to use Black power to Black dollars to build Black power. You have to use Black dollars to build Black power. So getting back to the topic, the political context of trying to help and organize Africans. Because number one, you don't help Black people unless you organize in Black people. Anybody claiming to help Black people and they're not trying to organize Black people is an opportunist and a hustler. Let me say this again. The main thing Black people need is not a handout. The main thing Black people need is not charity. The main thing Black people need is not Jesus or Muhammad. The main thing Black people need is organization. The most important thing you can do for African people, I don't care if you're in Africa, I don't care if you're in France, I don't care if you're in the UK, I don't care if you're in Germany, Ireland, Austria, I don't care if you're in China, Australia, the South Pacific, I don't care if you're in Jamaica, Haiti, Black Puerto Rico, Black Dominican Republic, Black Cuba. I don't care if you in Turks and Caicos, Aruba, Bonaire. I don't care if you in St. Thomas, St. Croix, St. Martin, St. Lucia. I don't care if you in Texas. I don't care if you in Toronto, Montreal. I don't care if you are in Panama, Belize. I don't care where you are. The most important thing African people need in this world is organization.